Welcome to the Sage Business Cloud webinar. This webinar will be about getting started in payroll. So the first thing that we're going to go through is a new company setup. So this is if you are transferring at the beginning of a tax year to this payroll system, or if you're a new employer and haven't yet paid your employees. So the contents of this will include your calendar settings, how to create employees, your payroll settings, how to create payments and deductions, your payslip settings, which is customizing payslips, and then I'll go through how to set up your pension correctly. So before you start processing in payroll or setting any payroll up, if you're a new employer, when you start employing staff, you need to register first with HMRC and set up an account with their online services. You can sign up for PAYE for employers and get your PAYE and accounts office reference numbers and an activation code. These can take up to 7 days to get, and you must activate them within 28 days. When you sign into payroll for the first time, a welcome message appears with the options to set up your company and your payroll information. This screen here is what you see when you log in before you've started putting any data in. So the option for the new company setup is the second option here, set up a new payroll from scratch. When you click on this new company button, what it does is it creates a new blank payroll company ready for you to enter your details. And this is what you see when you're on that page here. So you should have an option to set up your paydays and an option to add your employees. So the first thing that we're going to set up are your calendar settings. So before you pay your employees, you must set up your payday calendars. This helps you keep track of when you pay your employees. When you complete a pay run in payroll, it automatically moves to the next pay run in the calendar, so you don't need to manually enter pay dates each time you run a pay run. You can pay your employees weekly, 2-weekly, 4-weekly, and monthly. So now we'll just have a little demo of how you actually set this up within payroll. When creating your payday calendars, there's a couple of ways that we can actually set this up. So once you've clicked on the new company setup, it does give you the option of when would you like to pay your employees. If you press set up employee paydays here, it takes you to your calendar settings. If for some reason you don't have that option, or if you want to come and do this later, if you go into settings, you then have the option for calendar settings, and that takes you to exactly the same place. So for this example, I'm just going to set up a monthly calendar. It's the same button on each one to set them up. So I'm just going to click on set up monthly calendar. So in here, you can select the day that you normally pay your employees on. So if you select the same day of each month, you then need to choose the day of the month that you actually pay them on, and you can choose from the dates here. If you select the last day of the month, it'll automatically set the payday to the last day of each month, so you don't need to do anything with the dates. You can set up when your first pay run is. So this, for the monthly one, will be the first month you would like to pay your employees. If you then select this little tick box to avoid public holidays and weekends, Whenever a payday falls on a public holiday or weekend, the pay date defaults to the previous working day. If you untick this, it'll always pay on the day that you've selected here. So you can edit the paydays here. Just brings that up and you can edit it. And you can also remove the frequency here. So if you've set this up in error and it has not been used on a pay run yet, you can remove this frequency here. If it has been used on a pay run, you unfortunately cannot delete that. You can also view your pay calendar. So what this does, it will show you all of your pay runs and what date they are meant to be paid on in one screen. The next thing we're going to go through is how to create your employees. So to help you manage your employees, you can create and maintain records for them. You can enter things like their personal details, their tax codes, their NI categories, and as well as any P45 or P46 information. So new employees should always be created prior to running your first pay run. If you've already completed a pay run that an employee should have been included in, and the employee has not been created, you will be unable to process them in that pay run. You must wait until you've set the next pay run to create the employee. So again, for setting up your employees, there is a couple of ways that you can go about it. So once you've clicked that new company button, it does give you the option on the next page to enter your employees. So if you click add your employees, it takes you to your employees page. If you need to get back to this page, it is just employees at the top. So if you click on create employee, this brings you up the information that you need to add for this employee. So things like their forename, surname, date of birth, gender, and contact details should all be filled in. Their NI number should be filled in as well, but if you are struggling to find their NI number or the employee is under 16, just leave that box blank and start the employee on a P46 basis. HMRC automatically trace the employee's NI number and send you a CA6856 form to confirm the number. With this section down here, with the email and password, so this is for sending payslips through email. If you have a valid email in there and a password set up for the employee, you can then email that to them. When the payslip does get emailed, they will need the password that you've put in this box to be able to access that payslip. So the next thing you'll need to fill in is their employment details. So you should select the pay cycle, so select how often you're going to pay this employee. You should also select the contracted weekly hours. You should set up a works number for them. It's just a unique code that identifies the employee in the company, and that is unique to your company. You can set that up as any number you want. So the RTI Pay ID, this is used to capture a unique employee reference for the company which is included in your submissions to HMRC. So if you're transferring from another payroll system partway through a tax year that uses the RTI PID, you must enter this on each employee. If your previous payroll system was HMRC Basic Tools, you can find the RTI PID under Employee Details. then click Employment Details and note the payroll ID. If your employee is a new starter or if your business is a new business, Payroll will automatically assign them an RTI PID. But then when you move to another payroll system, you'll need to take that RTI PID with you and enter it in that new system. You would also put in their start date. Leave the finish date blank. That is just for marking employee as a leaver. You would select the payment method. If you do select bank transfer, you also need their bank account details. And then this checkbox, if you check that, it means that you don't need to assess this worker under the automatic enrolment conditions for your pension. So if your employee is a director of the company, you can click this little tick box here under directorship details, and you can fill in the information that you need if they are a director. So you would fill in the directorship start date and the preferred calculation method for the national insurance. The last thing that you need to choose is their starting basis. So if you click this as an existing employee, you would only select this option if you're setting up an employee who already worked for you and is paid in the normal way. For example, if you're setting up for the first time, you need to set up your existing employees. The next option is Employee Declaration P45. So you would select this option if a new employee has presented a P45 Part 3 issued by their previous employer. The other option you can have as a starting basis is a P46. And then once you've got all that set up, just click Save. And that'll save the employee as is with all the information you've got in here. Once you have that employee set up correctly, if there's anything that you do need to change on that employee, you can click into their profile and click Edit at the top. What this allows you to do is edit this. So you can edit any information there and then click Save again. And that's how you would set up your employees. If you do have more than one, you can just create another employee and keep doing that until you have all of them created on the system. So the next thing we're going to go through is just your payroll settings. This is just setting up your payroll for reporting to HMRC. So as an employer, you must report your payroll taxes to HMRC throughout the year. If you want to review or edit your HMRC filing details, payroll settings is the place to do it. So to get to your payroll settings, if you just go to settings at the top, and from the options, it's payroll settings. So in here, you can fill in your reporting details. So the first thing you need is your PAYE reference number. So that's issued by HMRC when you register for PAYE for employers. Your accounts office reference. This is your 13-character reference number supplied by HMRC. You can find it on your P30BC Payslip booklet or your P30B letter. Your HMRC reporting frequency. If you're unsure of whether you pay HMRC monthly or quarterly, please contact HMRC's Payment Inquiry Helpline and they'll be able to tell you which one that is. And then lastly, you just need to fill in how you actually pay HMRC. So do you pay that through cheque or bank transfer? Once that's filled in, click Save and you're ready to report to HMRC. So now we'll just go through your payment and deduction settings. So to ensure you pay your employees correctly, you need to create and manage your company payments and deductions. So to get to your payment and deduction settings, if you go to Settings at the top, and then you'll see here Payment and Deduction Settings. So there's two tabs on this page, there's Payments and there's Deductions. So to create a payment, make sure you're on the Payments tab, and then you'll have a blue button that says Create New Payment. So firstly, you'll need to select your payment category. There's quite a few to choose from there. So to ensure that the payment is correctly recorded for tax and NI, you must ensure that you select the correct category here. The next one to choose is your payment type. Again, there is a lot to choose from, but again, just to make sure it is correctly recorded for tax and NI, you must have the correct payment type as well. You can choose a name to name this payment. Just bear in mind that this name will appear on payslips. You can also enter a description. So this text explains the purpose of the payment. The next thing to do is click whether to include it in the calculation of pension earnings and qualifying earnings. So once that payment is saved, it will come up here. Just bear in mind that you cannot delete payments in payroll. If you don't want to use this payment in the current pay run, just don't select it as one of the payments for that employee. If it is already selected, there is a little cross button on the pay run just to delete that. You can edit the payments if you need to. If you click onto the payment, there is a little edit button down at the bottom there. So next is the deductions. Just make sure you're on the deductions tab at the top and you'll have a button that says create new deduction. It's exactly the same as the payment in the setup. So you would select a deduction category, select a deduction type, you would name your deduction, and you would put in a description. Again, once these are saved, you cannot delete them, but if you don't want to use them, just don't include them on the pay run. And again, you can edit them exactly the same way as you edited the payment, just by clicking into this deduction again. The next thing we'll quickly go through is the payslip settings. So this is really easy. There is only a few options you can choose from when setting up your payslips. So I'll just show you in the system what they are. So to get to your payslip settings, if you just go to settings at the top, and you'll see payslip settings as the second option there. So you'll see here the only thing that you can change is the template that's used. So we've got 3 templates. You won't need to buy any stationery for these payslips. What you see on screen here is actually what prints out from your printer, so there's no need to buy any stationery for these. It just prints out like this. Once you've selected a suitable one, just click Save, and then when you print those, or email them, this is how they will look. So next we're just going to go through the pension setup. What I'll do is I'll just start talking about automatic enrolment, just the basics of it, just to give you some background. So automatic enrolment is a government initiative that was introduced to help more people save for their retirement through a pension scheme at work. Every employer in the UK must enrol certain staff into a workplace pension scheme and contribute towards it. The automatic enrolment law is already in force for all employers, so if you do start a new payroll system, you will have to comply with this new legislation straight away. If you are a new business, you can find out how to set up automatic enrolment by visiting the pensions regulator. They are your point of contact for everything related to the pension and how to get that set up. Anything from choosing a pension provider to your automatic enrolment date. So we'll just go through how to set up a pension in the system and what information you will need when setting one up. So to get the pension set up started, what you need to do first is set up your staging date. So on your summary page, on the right hand side, you'll have auto enrolment/pensions. Your staging date for commencing automatic enrolment is determined by your PAYE reference number. If you don't know this, our suggestion would be to talk to the pensions regulator and they should be able to help you with your staging date. So just for this example, I'm just going to go back to 2019 and put it as the 1st of June 2019. So if your staging date is before you're using this system, it'll tell you that you've reached your staging date. So it'll say that automatic enrolment preparations must be completed before you process the pay runs. That includes the staging date or any later pay runs. So before you process any pay runs, you can actually amend the staging date if you have put it in incorrectly. Once you process pay runs, that staging date cannot be changed, so please make sure you put in the right staging date. So to prepare for auto enrolment, you can either click this button here, or you can go to pensions at the top. So you've got a few steps that you need to go through when setting up your pensions. So the first step is to nominate a pensions contact. So under the automatic enrolment legislation, you must nominate a pension contact for correspondence from the pension regulator. So you would need to complete the nominate a contact form on the pensions regulator website. So once you've done that, you would tick this off by clicking this little checkbox, and then that goes green to say that you've done it. The next step is assess your workforce. So to identify the impact of the new pension legislation on your workers, you should assess them now. This option identifies your worker categories for automatic enrolment. So once you've done that, if you click Workforce Assessed, the next is to review your pension arrangements. So there's a few different scenarios here. So if you don't already have a pension, once you've decided on a pension scheme provider and worked with them to get your scheme up and running, you should select No for the Do you have an existing pension scheme. If you've already had a qualifying pension scheme and that's already set up, you would click this one as Yes. For this, you would click the Confirm link. The pension regulator website opens automatically and you can check whether your existing scheme qualifies for automatic enrolment. If you're unsure, you need to speak to your pension provider. So once you confirm that it does qualify for automatic enrolment, you can add the pension here. Once that pension's been added, you can then click this pension scheme qualifies. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to click that I do not have an existing pension scheme. So when you've clicked no to this, and what you want to do is you want to click the add a new pension button. So in here, you would pick your pension provider. So for mine, I'm going to go with Nest. So the first thing you want to fill in is your employer reference. On Nest, this is the Nest ID, but it will be different on different pension providers. You then need to add your group. So you put in the group name, the contribution rate, the employer contribution percentage, the employee contribution percentage, and the earnings basis. You would click whether it was deducted before tax or not, and the payment due date. If the default plan checkbox is ticked, this will automatically enrol all employees into this pension. You can change this for individuals during the pay process if you do need to. For this information, you will need to check the scheme that is set up with your pension provider. This needs to match 100% for it to calculate correctly. And then once you've got the group added, you need to add a payment source. So you would check the name of the payment source in your pension scheme provider and fill in that exactly as it is on their side. If it is the default payment source, you would just click that. You would click that it's a qualifying scheme, and then you would have to select the tick box to confirm that you are agreeing with our terms as well. So once you've got that all filled in, if you just click save, and then you'll need to click this box that says pension scheme qualifies. The last step to this is to communicate auto-enrolment changes to your employees. So you're obliged to inform your employees of how automatic enrolment will impact them. You can print out or email advance notices of auto-enrolment to your workforce, and you can do it from here. You can print all or email all, or you can select what to do on an individual employee basis. Once you've done that, you would click Employees Informed, and that is your pension set up. So the other option to set up your payroll is a mid-year setup. So if you're transferring from another payroll system such as HMRC Basic Tools, you can use the Migrate Payroll Data option to easily enter your existing payroll information and employees into payroll. So going through this, we'll have a look at when to migrate your data, the information that you'll need from your last payroll system to actually migrate your data, and then I'll just take you through a demonstration of how you actually do a mid-year setup in payroll and where to enter the information that you have. So when to migrate your data. You must migrate your data at the start of a tax month or quarter, depending on how often you pay HMRC and enter payroll total values up to that date. This ensures that when you produce your P32 for that month or quarter, the values agree with your full payment submissions that you make to HMRC. So a tax month runs from the 6th of one month to the 5th of the next. The first tax quarter runs from the 6th of April to the 5th of July, then every 3 months after that. For example, if you've processed the first 2 weekly pay runs of the current tax month, you should process the remaining weekly pay runs of that reporting period in the old payroll system Make your relevant online submissions before migrating to payroll at the end of the next tax month. So what information do you need when you are migrating? So you'll need the following information from your previous payroll system. You'll need your P11 reports. These reports provide you with the PAYE and national insurance totals you need to enter. You need a P11 report for each employee paid during this tax year, including leavers, starters, directors, students, and casual employees. You will then also need the P45 or P46 information. If any employees started during the current tax year, you need their P45 to enter the values from their previous employment. You'll also need the start dates of all the current employees. You'll need the leaver dates. This is for anyone that's left during the current tax year. You'll need statutory payment information. So if any employees received statutory payments during the current tax year, you need their statutory payment year-to-date values. Also, the relevant dates relating to their absence and employee average weekly earnings. You'll need any directorship details, so things like the date they became a director and the NI calculation method. You'll need your employees' RTI PIDs. So if you've previously submitted information to HMRC, you need to have the correct RTI PID for each employee. If you enter the wrong ID, this could duplicate HMRC records for the employee. If your previous payroll system didn't use an RTI PID, you must enter an ID of your choice. And the next thing you'll need are your P32 reports. So you need these reports for the current tax year pay runs processed in the previous payroll system. You need these to enter statutory pay or employment allowance you've claimed during the year. And you should also have a copy of these for your personal records as well. So now we'll go on to a little demo of how you actually process this in the system and how you go about setting up that mid-year setup. To enter your mid-year setup data in a payroll, when you first sign in, I'll give you these two options. For the mid-year setup, you need to click the option I have data from an existing payroll. So if you click enter manually, it'll come up with the migrate payroll data wizard. And there's a few things you need to set up on here. So you need to choose your P32 reporting details. You can select the reporting frequency as monthly or quarterly, the P32 payment method, and the last completed P32 reporting period. In this one, you have to choose the last tax month or quarter that you completed and paid to HMRC using your previous payroll system. The first pay run you then process in this payroll is at the start of the next reporting period. So for example, if my last one was January 2020, it would start from February 2020 in this payroll. You then have to specify when your employees are paid, so essentially this is setting up your pay calendars. So if you have weekly employees, and select which payday they are paid on. And again, this box, if you have that ticked, it'll automatically avoid public holidays and weekends and pay them the day before. Or if you have that unticked, it'll just pay on Tuesday every single time. So once you've got them selected, if you click next, So in this section is where you would create your employee records. So to do this, just click Add Employee. So in here, you would have to put in their personal details here. So you'll need their contact details, their NI number, and things like that. Also in this section, you need to make sure you complete their tax details and their opening balances. So on the tax details, we'll just go through the information that you need. So you have to choose which pay cycle they are in and how often you want to pay them. So we've just set up a weekly one, so we'll put them in the weekly. You have to select their contracted hours. You have to put in their works number. You would put in their start date. You would select the payment method, how you actually pay them outside of payroll. You would then put in their tax code, whatever that is for this year. If you don't know that, do get in contact with HMRC. And you would pick their NI category. For the RTI Pay ID, this is a unique employee reference for your company which is included in your submissions to HMRC. If you are migrating data from a previous payroll, this RTI Pay ID has to be the same as what was in that previous payroll. So next, we'll have a look at opening balances. If the employee was paid in this tax year, select this box. The taxable pay this employment is the employee's taxable gross pay received so far this tax year. For this employment, including any statutory sick pay received. If the employee started work during this tax year, this value is for the current employment only. You should add the P45 value to the started during tax year section. Tax this employment is the amount of tax paid to date by the employee in this tax year. So again, if they started during this tax year, this value is only for the current employment at your company. You would then need to select their NI category. Their NI sayable earnings is the employee's total gross pay for national insurance to date. Unless the employee has received any payments which are not subject to NI, this should be the same as the total gross pay. The total EENI paid is the total national insurance paid by the employee to date this tax year for the current NI category. You can find this value in column 1F of the P11 deductions working sheet. The next one, the total ERNI paid, is the total national insurance paid by the employer on the employee's behalf to date this tax year for the current NI category. You can get this value by subtracting the employee's NI from the total NI, and you can find the total NI value in column 1E of the P11 deductions working sheet. Earnings at LEL, this is the employee's earnings up to the lower earnings limit. This is the total of values in column 1A of the P11 deductions working sheet. Earnings LEL to PT. This means the employee's earnings above the lower earning limit and up to the primary threshold. This is the total of values in column 1B of the P11 deduction working sheet. And lastly, the employee's earnings above the primary threshold and up to the upper earnings limit, the earnings PT to UEL. This is the total of values in column 1C of the P11 deductions working sheet. If the employee is a director, you would click this box and put in their details there. It's just the same, so the directorship start date, the calculation method for NI, and the NI-able earnings. If the employee has received any statutory payments in this tax year, select this tick box, then enter the amount paid so far in the relevant boxes. You can't recover SSP paid to employees, therefore you shouldn't include any SSP the employee received during the tax year in this amount. Instead, you should include any SSP received in the taxable paid a date amount. If the employee has made student loan repayments this year, you would tick this box and enter the total value of those repayments. If the employee started working for you during this tax year, select this tick box and then click the relevant starting basis. And then once you've filled all that in, if you just save that and your employee comes up there, if you do have more employees, just click in the add employee button and making sure you fill all that detail in for everyone. Once you've done that, if you click next. So this is just the confirmation page. So this tells you who is currently active on the payroll and any employees who were paid but have left the business. So to migrate these employees, just press submit. So we'll go on to the migrate payroll data screen and enter any values for statutory pay recovered. So when you migrate data from an existing payroll system partway through the tax year, you can enter the values for any statutory payment recovery and compensation that you've received so far. So for example, your employment allowance values. This just makes sure that your P32s are correct. So you can click whether you've been eligible for small employers relief. And you can fill in any recovered values for SMP, SAP, SPP and SHPP. You can then tick whether you're eligible for the employment allowance. So for this allowance applied mid-year section, you would click no if you started claiming the allowance at the start of the tax year. In this situation, the allowance reduces your liability to employer NI contributions. If you started claiming the allowance at some point during the course of the tax year, then you would need to click yes here. In this situation, you can claim the amount you would have claimed up to that point since the beginning of the tax year. This value is offset against employer NI liabilities, but if there is a balance remaining, this may be offset against PAYE liabilities. And then if you were claiming the allowance in the previous payroll system, you must also specify how much of the £3,000 allowance you have already claimed, so you would specify this here. Once you've filled in that, just click Save. This will take you back to Settings. You want to click on Summary, and then we're going to review, edit or further configure your migrated data. It's just in this second section here. This just gets you back to this page so you can have a look at the next steps. So next, we're just going to open the employee records and confirm employees' current working patterns. So in here, you want to click on the employee that you want to have a look at the working pattern for. Then you've got a tab at the top saying working pattern. If you click edit in the top right hand corner, you can change their working pattern. So if they only work a Monday and Tuesday, you can save that and that'll save their working pattern. And once again, if we go to summary and then click on review, edit or further configure your migrated data again. And then these two are to do with processing pay. So you would need to enter any current employee absence while processing pay. So if you've got absences for the tax year that you're currently in, you would put that in there when you're processing their pay. And you would set up the student loan deductions while you were processing your pay as well if you needed to. If you do think that you've put anything wrong or you need to edit your migrated data, if you click Review or Edit Your Migrated Data here, this will take you back to the Migrate Payroll Data Wizard so you can have a look through and see if there's anything that you need to do or need to change. And then once you've done all those steps, if you just click Done, and that's the Migrated Payroll Wizard done. And then you can go on to set up your pension, just as described in the previous section of this video. And you can go to Settings, change your payslip settings, set up new calendars, set up payments and deductions, and put your PAYE reference number and account office reference number in the payroll settings. And then once all that is done, you're ready to just process the pay run, which we'll go on to next, so you can see how to actually do that. So now we're going to move on to actually processing in the system once you've set all that information up. So the contents of this is just going to run through how to process a pay run and how to process your first pay run and what actually goes into that whole pay run process. We're then going to have a look at the reports that you can run and how you actually run them. And then we're going to go through recording your EPS payments, so your employer payment submission. Just bear in mind that when we do process this payment, it doesn't actually pay HMRC through the system. You will have to do that outside of the system. So once you're ready to process that first pay run, just click Process Pay Run. So on this start page, you're just confirming the pay date for the pay run that you're doing. If that date is correct, then just click Next. You can change your tier as well if you need to. If you have any absences with the employee, you would click on their name and then add absence, and you would choose which absence that you want to add. Once that's done, just click Next. So on this pay page, this is where you would put in the payments and deductions for the employee. So if you click Add Payment, you can see the ones that you've set up in Settings, or you can add a new payment. If we just click Salary and add that to them, and then you put in their salary in the rate box. As you can see, this automatically calculates PAYE and national insurance. It'll automatically do the pension assessment as well, so mine is non-eligible job holder and may opt in on request. If your employee is eligible, it'll have the amount that's being deducted for pension here. If you're happy with that pay, click Next. This will take you onto the confirmation page. So it'll tell you how many employees you're paying and at what cost to you. You can have a look at the detailed report for breakdowns of those amounts, but we will go into that in a little while. You can see the net pay, the employer pension contribution and the employee pension contribution in the employee pay breakdown. And you can also have a look at their payslip. So if you run the payslip before you've actually confirmed the pay run, it will say draft. But it's good to check that their payslip is correct. Once you've done that, if you just complete the pay run, when you click Complete Pay Run for the first time on your very first pay run, you will have to put in your Government Gateway ID and password. These can be stored for future submissions if you need to, and this just makes sure that that goes straight through to HMRC and the full payment submission is successful. It'll ask you to confirm the pay values, and if you're happy with everything, just click confirm. On this page, this just shows you the completed pay run. So it shows you an employee pay breakdown again. And then if you scroll down, it'll show you the RTI information, so the real-time information. If the submission has failed for full payment submission, you will see what it does here. And if you do have a failed status, you can click resolve issue, and it'll tell you why that's failed, so you can rectify it. If it is an authentication failure and you want to change them, if you just click this change button, it'll ask you to put in the user ID and password again, and you can resubmit. If it has went through successfully, it will have a green tick here, and it'll say submission successful. If you do need to edit the pay run for any reason, you've got the edit pay run button in the top right hand corner. But bear in mind, since this one is confirmed now, it will cause a correction on your next pay run. In this payroll system, there is a few reports that you can run and print off. So the first one that we're going to have a look at is the detailed payroll report. So to get this, if you go into pay runs at the top, click on the pay run that you want the detailed report for. This will only show it for that pay run. And then click here to open the detailed report. So this report contains information such as a payslip summary for each employee, a summary of payments and deductions, a breakdown of employer costs, a breakdown of amounts due to HMRC, and a breakdown of payment methods. The next report we can run, if you really need to, is the P11s. If you go to year end at the top, put it for the correct year, and then you can review employee pay. You can view them for all employees in the same PDF, or you can just view it for the one employee that you need to have a look at. You can also have a look at their pay slips again if you need to. So if you go into pay runs again, go into the pay run that you need their pay slips for, and you can either export all the PDF pay slips, or you can look at them individually with this little icon here. Then the last report we're going to have a look at is the P32 employer payment record. So if you go into pay runs again, click on the pay run that is at the end of either the tax month or the tax quarter, depending on how often you would pay this to HMRC. And then if you scroll down to the HMRC real-time information section again, so in this section, you'll see right at the bottom, the P32 employer payment record. If you click on that, we recommend that you print the P32 employer payment record at the end of each tax reporting period. This report shows a breakdown of your total liability due to HMRC for the period, and you can use the values to determine whether or not you need to submit an EPS, so an employer payment submission. So this is how it looks here. You'll have the month that it is, the PAYE values, the national insurance contribution values, the statutory payments, the P32 liability, and the P32 adjustments. So now we're going to have a look at recording the EPS and the P32 payment. So if you go to pay runs again, click on the pay run that completes the tax period. And then if you scroll down to the RTI section, and you'll notice it'll say your EPS payment due in, and then you've got a record payment / EPS button here. So that's it for today's webinar on getting started in payroll. Thanks for watching.